Good morning, Pioneers. My name is Connor Morrison.
And my name is Justice Cullivan. Welcome to The Grit.
Over the past weekend, girls wrestling went to the Women Ironman Invitational. Kenzie Carter was the team's highest placer, getting second in her weight class. Lydia Hendrick and Jenny Hiracha Arianos and Bella Ninja Mbappe all placed in the top 5.
Girls basketball traveled to Hilliard Darby on Tuesday night. Unfortunately, they lost a hard-fought game 48-57. The girls also host Dublin Kaufman tonight at 7. Make sure to show and support the girls. The Pioneer swim team traveled to New Albany for a tri-meet against New Albany and Olentangy Liberty. Now, here's MC with an interview with the boys' head basketball coach, Coach Kalo.
Good morning, Mr. Kalo. Thank you for joining us today. We just have a couple questions for you. How have the boys done so far in their season?
Yeah, good start. 3-0 this year. Game 2 versus Westerville North was really high-quality, fun high school basketball game. Westerville North's, I don't know, maybe the best team in Division II in the whole state, and we hope to be a really strong team in Division I. Levi Davis buzzer beater. It was a fun game. So solid start overall.
The boys are 3-0 so far in this season. What have been some of those key factors for this early success?
Yeah, defensively we've been really good so far. We've played really well in the half court defensively. Good ball pressure. Some things that we focus on: gap, being in gaps, gap discipline. We've done a good job with our half court defense so far this year.
Looking towards the rest of the season, what are you most optimistic about?
Most optimistic about? Oh, big question. There's a lot to look forward to. We have a lot of big events this year. We're playing Flying to the Hoop in Dayton, which I consider the premier Midwest event in the whole region. Really fun event where the best teams and honestly all across America come to play. Playing a team out of Arizona. That'll be really fun. 4 top 100 kids in the country we're playing against in that event. Playing against Cathedral out of Indiana, maybe the best team in Indiana, allegedly 38th in the country. Centerville's been to 3 straight Final Fours. Ignatius won the state championship Division I last year. So, most optimistic about, we're looking forward to all those challenges. I would say our goal is to make a serious push for the state title this year. And we're going to face all those challenges along the way to prepare ourselves and get ourselves better.
What do you think the biggest strengths and weaknesses of the team are this season?
We have some offensive efficient things that we need to clean up a little bit. I say that from a lens of really high standards. I wouldn't say there's an area where we're really struggling necessarily, but if we want to make a push for the state title, we have to perform at a really elite level. Rebounding's got to clean up, some offensive efficiencies have to clean up for us to perform at that top level we want to perform at. But yeah, defensively, I already talked about that. Strengths, we're really good defensively. And then we consider ourselves a really connected team. So from a team culture perspective, I would say a strength is our connectivity and how much our guys just love and care about each other.
Finally, how do you think the game against Dublin Kaufman tonight will go?
Yeah, big league game tonight. Kaufman has a kid, Colin McClure, who's a really good player. He's averaging 28 points a game right now. Really good shooter. Played against him for a while, so we got to stop Colin first. If we can do that, we should have a good night, hopefully.
Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with the rest of your season. Now back to the desk.
Pioneer Sports has a packed schedule coming up this weekend. Basketball has a doubleheader tonight and tomorrow. The boys will be playing at Dublin Kaufman tonight and at crosstown rival Olentangy High School tomorrow.
Gymnastics starts the day off bright and early at 9 a.m. with their meet against Davidson, and boys wrestling will travel to Galton with a dual meet. Finally, the girls wrestling team will host Orange Citrus Duels. More on that later.
The college football playoff is officially here. Justin and I will be back in a moment to break everything down and give our predictions for how this historical season will come to an end.
Hey Pioneers, today we're going to be taking a look at boys hockey.
So preseason went pretty well. We went 2-0-1, played some really good teams, we won our first one, tied our second, and then won our third. We beat Berlin 8-1, so that's a big win. My expectations for this year are pretty high, and we're a really good team. We did really well in preseason, and we're really bonding as a team, and our chemistry is going through the roof right now.
Our toughest matchup this year is probably Liberty, which is today, and I feel like after that we also have a pretty hard schedule going into New Albany on Sunday and then playing Coffin the next week.
That's all I have for you. Now, back to the desk.
Welcome back to the college football playoff predictions. We have our bracket here, and we're just going to go through our predictions. Justice and I are going to have some different ideas for some different games, so I'm going to just get started off here. We'll go top to bottom here. We'll start with Clemson and Texas. Clemson kind of crawled their way into this college playoff. They played SMU. They had a 18-point lead going into the fourth quarter, and then ended up tied with a minute left in the game. Got a lucky kick return and was able to kick a field goal. And this Texas team, while both Texas and Georgia didn't look great in their games against each other, Texas obviously is a more dominant team. And this game being at Texas is also a big factor. So I'm going to have Texas to move on here in the first round. And then going to most definitely the most electric game in the first round of these college football playoffs, Ohio State hosts Tennessee at the Shoe at night. It's going to be a readout. This game is going to be a big game. Ohio State needs a bounce back after their loss to Michigan, and Tennessee has been kind of inconsistent all season, but a lot of people now are doubting Ohio State because of that loss. As an Ohio State fan, you've got to take Ohio State at home. I think the home factor, again, is going to be a big factor there into Ohio State's victory, and I think this is really just a statement game for them. Now moving down to SMU and Penn State, a lot of people don't like that SMU is in this playoff. They think that, the 3-loss Alabama team should be in the playoff over them. I like SMU. I like their quarterback, Jennings. He's a gunslinger. He can run the ball well. He played a very good second half. First half, obviously, SMU struggled a lot versus Clemson. But I really like this SMU team. But Penn State, the big thing is that Penn State can't win big games. But they did hang around and played a good game against Oregon, came down to what could have been a game-winning drive if Drew Aller hadn't thrown an interception. But I am going to take Penn State. I think this game will be a lot closer than people assume because SMU lost to Clemson. But I think that Penn State also has some issues. But I think SMU is just an underrated team, but I don't think they have enough to get past Penn State. And then moving on to, in my opinion, two really overrated teams, Indiana and Notre Dame. Notre Dame, in my opinion, is always a team that just is relevant for no reason. But Indiana also, got very far, was ranked top 5 at one point, had a very tough loss to OSU. But I think this is kind of a bounce back for them, and I just don't think Notre Dame is really that team. So I'm going to have Indiana to go past Notre Dame and play the Bulldogs in the second round. So
I really like that pick, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
It's a cool pick, yeah.
So moving on to the second round, starting with Texas and Arizona State. In my opinion, Arizona State is the worst team in this college playoff, and they have a first round bye. I think Texas breezes past them. I'm not going to, spend too much time on them. We'll get Texas here to the third round. Ohio State-Oregon rematch. A lot of people say that you can't beat a team twice. I would like to believe that. But Oregon's looked so dominant throughout the season. It really depends on how well Ohio State plays against Tennessee, in my opinion. But as much as I would love to pick Ohio State here, I think Oregon gets past them. It'll be a nail-biter for sure. And then, if I can move this. Oh, my goodness. There we go. Penn State and Boise State. A lot of people like Penn State here. Just they've looked pretty good all season. They had a close game against Oregon. But I think that, in my opinion, who should win the Heisman, Aston Genty, is such a great running back. I think that Penn State's defense is not all too great. I don't think they have the means to stop Genty from running all over them on defense. So I'm going to take Boise State to move on here. And then Indiana, Georgia. Again, I think Indiana's overrated. Georgia, they have 2 losses. They didn't look great. Carson Beck got injured and probably won't be playing for any of the playoffs. But their backup, I know his first name's Gunner. I don't remember his last name. But he looked pretty good in that game against Texas. Got more passing yards on his first drive in the second half than Carson Beck did all of the first half against Texas there. So I'm going to take Georgia here. And then, come on, there we go. Texas and Oregon, I think this will be a really good game. I don't know if Texas has enough. Texas doesn't really have a statement win against a really good team this year. Lost to Georgia twice, and that's really been their 2 biggest losses. And they haven't looked great in either of those losses, offensively or defensively. So I'm going to take Oregon there. I think Oregon is just such a dominant team. They've got a great coach with Dan Lanning. So I think I'll take Oregon to the final. And then Boise State and Georgia. I really don't know. Georgia's defense doesn't look great, but it doesn't look terrible. This is a really tough decision for me. What are you thinking on this one, Justice?
This is a tough one. I think it's going to be the best player versus the best overall, probably one of the best teams. Ashton Genty versus the Georgia Bulldogs. And I think when you're just looking at this, there's just no way I can glance past Georgia. I think Kirby's smart. He has been in this situation. He has the tools, the ability to win that game if that game so happens to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Georgia, it's a really good team. You never really count them out anymore. It's kind of the new Alabama where things can happen. They're definitely, in the past couple years, been the most dominant team in college football. So now we move on to this final, Oregon and Georgia. I think this really does have a chance of being the final game. Georgia has a relatively easy, path to the final if they get that far. And Oregon has a difficult one, playing Ohio State and then Texas in this bracket. I think that if Oregon can overcome the adversity of these 2 games right here, I think that in the end they'll probably win there against Georgia. Probably a pretty high-scoring game. None of these defenses are great. Oregon lets up a lot of points, but they can always score. Georgia has a better defense than Oregon, in my opinion, but it's kind of shaky and inconsistent. I'm going to go 35-24 in an Oregon win here. So let's get this reset, and then let's talk about what you think is going to happen in this playoff.
Now, this is going to be my prediction. It's going to be a little bit different. We saw a very chalky one in the last one. No offense to Connor.
Okay, I see.
First one, we got Clemson at Texas. This is my big upset pick to start. I'm going Clemson. Clay Klubnik is going to get the job done versus the Longhorns. This Texas team is totally fraudulent. They have done nothing all season. Unless they have Arch Manning, which has been proven with Clemson struggling against Lenora Sellers and Jennings, who are both very good running quarterbacks. Unless Arch Manning plays that game, there's no other winning. Quinn Ewers is one of the most overrated quarterbacks I've ever seen in college football. I'm very glad that he did not play for Ohio State, because if he played like that, I would be calling for his head. Now, I think this is going to be a pretty handled win. I'm going 31-20 for Clemson and a handled victory against Texas.
Oh, we've got score predictions. Are you doing that for all the games?
All the games.
Okay.
31-20 for Clemson. That's going to be my prediction. Clay Klubnik's going to have a field day with this Texas team, who couldn't even stop a backup quarterback in Georgia. So I'm going to go Clemson for the first one. Then we got Ohio State versus Tennessee. And like you, I think it's going to be a very close one. This is Ryan Day's legacy moment here. This is going to decide if he's going to stay with the Buckeyes or if Brian Hartline or Chip Kelly's going to be taking over. This is a big game for the Buckeyes. This might be the last time we ever see Brian Hartline. too, who's he's probably gonna be the West Virginia head coach. So I'm gonna take Ohio State here. I can't go against them, especially in the first round at home. I think the shoe is gonna be popping. They're talking about how SEC is a whole different level. We're gonna see about that. Let me tell you, Ohio State, Will Howard. This is a big matchup. Nico Ilimaliov is just not the guy that I think is gonna get it done. He's a freshman at Tennessee. The receiving core is mediocre at best. They have a great defense though. And I think it's going to come down to defenses. But I'm going to go with a win, 27-24 Ohio State. Jaden Fielding hopefully learns to kick the ball, unlike he did at Michigan. Then we move on to probably one of my favorite matchups at noon on Saturday. I'm hyped for this one. SMU going into Happy Valley in a whiteout against Penn State. Unfortunately, they did put this game at night, which makes no sense to me. It's a whiteout at Penn State. Come on. But I'm going to take Penn State here. I think Drew Aller, he played amazing against Oregon, in my opinion. The offense really unlocked a different level. Tyler Warren is the best tight end in the country. If it wasn't for that Bowling Green tight end, I forget his name, but he's insane. This Penn State team, they're scrappy. They know how to get points, even if the stats aren't always the best. The running, they got two great running backs in Singleton and Katrin Allen. I think Penn State's going to get the job done against SMU. This SMU team, I think, is going to put up a fight. I think I'm going to go of a decent win for Penn State, though, of 38-20 against SMU. Then we got Indiana versus Notre Dame. Now, I wouldn't call Notre Dame overrated. I actually saw them live, and the difference in skill that I have seen through each week, they have gotten progressively better. Now, the schedule is a cupcake schedule. So is Indiana's. Indiana's one big game, they got cobble-whopped, okay? So, I'm going to take Notre Dame here. It's at their place, and let's just say Touchdown Jesus is going to be getting a lot of work in, all right? If you know, you know. Going to go Fighting Irish in that one. I'm going to take that one in a 44-24 blowout for Notre Dame. Then, Clemson versus Arizona State. Two names on Arizona State. They're not the worst team in college football playoffs. I can tell you that. Cameron Scadaboo and Sam Levitt are going to have words with Connor after this one. Let me tell you, Arizona State's winning this one, the Sun Devils. I don't know which bowl game this is off the top of my head, but Arizona State, the Sun Devils, they haven't been here before, but I promise you, Sam Levitt is a guy that you got to be worried about. Clemson has shown. Lenora Sellers ran all over them. Sam Levitt's a great runner as well. Cameron Scadaboo might be the second best running back in college football if it wasn't for a little man down there in Boise. So I'm going to take Arizona State here in a tight overtime win, 33-34.
Now, I do have a quick question before you get going. You said Arizona isn't the worst team. Who do you think is the worst team in this?
I think it's SMU personally.
Okay.
I think they're a good team. I don't think they're bad, but I just don't think they're on the same level. I think SMU and Indiana are very close there. So then we got the Buckeyes versus the Ducks, a rematch. Ryan Day, he struggles in his first game. That's the story we have been told over and over and over. But he's going to – I don't know if I have faith in him, but I do have faith in one man, and that's Willie H. Willie H., Will Howard, is going to get the job done. He played amazing against Oregon. No one can say differently. He played an amazing game against Oregon, and he's going to do it again, and it's going to be enough. And the Buckeyes are going to be moving on to the Final Four. Now we move on to my opinion, one of the other most hyped games. And I'm also taking Boise. You think Penn State, who led Ohio State with an offensive line battered and beaten, run all over them? What is Ashton Jeanty going to do to them? I don't even want to see. That might be a crime. Okay? So Boise, with the upset over Penn State, it's going to be insane. That's going to be a great game. Ashton Jeanty's going to put up numbers. Georgia, fighting the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame, people call them overrated. They haven't been good since the 90s, since Tim Brown in 1987 won a Heisman. But you know what they do have? Riley Leonard. You know what he has? He's got great legs. He can run all day, and that's exactly what he's going to do, and he's going to run the Irish train to the top four.
Wow. I disagree with this wholeheartedly.
Oh, I forgot my score prediction for the Ohio State-Oregon. That's going to be a 49-0. Boise versus Penn State is going to be a 28-23. Notre Dame beats Georgia in a 21-17 slugfest of a game.
So you think Ohio State shuts out number one?
I was kidding about that. That's going to be a close one.
Okay.
It's 35-38 Ohio State is my real prediction. Then we got the Sun Devils taking on the Buckeyes. I'm not even going to talk. Come on. Are we serious? The Sun Devils versus Big Brutus. Come on. Will Howard's going to have a field day with that terrible secondary. Ohio State, Judkins, Henderson, all the boys, Going to take him there. Caleb Downs, best DB in the country as of yesterday. Then we got Boise versus Notre Dame. Give me the Fighting Irish
No way.
to beat Ashton Genty. That defense, and we had the two best defenses in the country right here. Notre Dame versus Ohio State, my two favorite colleges. Not biased. This is exactly what's going to happen.
There might be some bias here.
Riley Leonard versus Willie H. This is going to be the battle of who has the better defense. And you know, there's going to be one man and one man only who's going to stand up and have, after being battled, beaten, bruised by the media, by Oregon's wide receivers, Denzel Burke with a game-winning interception to beat the Fighting Irish in an absolute ESPN instant classic, greatest national championship of all time.
Oh, wow.
Will Howard to Jeremiah Smith
No bias here.
to win the game, 45-42. Buckeyes win in overtime, and they're the national championship winners. You know, you can laugh at me all you want, but when we're going to come back here and we're going to talk about this after this exact chalk happens, after this exact bracket happens, and we're going to be talking about this for ages. That's all I got. Buckeyes, your 2024 national champions.
We'll be back to the desk right after this. We have a full weekend of orange sports. Tonight, girls basketball hosts Kaufman at home with tip-off at 7 p.m. Sophomore guard Ava Baccio is averaging 10 points for the Nears.
Tonight, hockey hosts St. Charles at Chiller North at 8 p.m. The boys return to the ice on Sunday to face Gahanna at 5:10 p.m. This weekend marks the return of Maverick Shulvin, who plays forward for the Pioneers.
Tomorrow, both boys and girls wrestling are on the mat. The boys team, led by senior Gavin Gaylor, heads to Galen for the Cooper McCade Memorial Tournament. The girls team stays at home at the Citrus Bowl with both Varsity A and Varsity B teams in the draw. A surprise has been sophomore 105-pounder Allie Walton, who is coming off the Ironman where she beat two top 10 girls.
Tomorrow, gymnastics heads to Davidson at 9 a.m. Tune in on Monday to hear about the last night's swim tri-meet. They head to Gahanna YMCA tonight to face Gahanna. That's all for me.
Hi Pioneers, today we're going to be taking a closer look into the girls gymnastics team.
Last year we won OCCs for the first time since 2011. This year we hope to go to states since they added a third team from our district.
Last year I think our team score was a 114 and we got 4th in our district, which is pretty good. But this year I think if we work really hard, we can bump up that team score and we can make it to states.
So at practice, we practice at COGC and we normally get there, we warm up and stretch and do conditioning sometimes, and then we go to all of our events, and depending if it's like a meet week or not, if it is, we'll do like full routines on each event or like meet, warm up, compete, and then if not, our coach will give us like specific assignments for our skills and we'll just work on cleaning them up and getting them better. We had our first meet last Friday at COGC. It was pretty good. We placed second as a team and it was a lot of fun. A lot of us placed individually as well, which is really good. Our next meet is Saturday and it's against like 16 teams, so it's a lot bigger and it should be a really good meet, so we're really excited about it.
That's all for today, Pioneers. Now back to the desk.
Looking ahead to winter break, the girls will also travel to Findlay for the Findlay Fight Invitational. This is one of the biggest meets of the year for the girls.
That's all for our show. Make sure to support your Nears in action this week. I'm Connor Morrison.
And I'm Justin Kelvin. We'll see you after winter break right here on the Grit and Roll Nears.